My name is John Penquet, and this is Ultimate Landlord. Ultimate Landlord is a place and the company that focuses relentlessly on facts, data, market intelligence, and real-world experiences in the property industry. Now, if you're serious about investment, you need serious, relevant information. Get-rich-quick schemes are not for you. You know your goals and your purpose. You're a high performer. You focus on investing and you need the latest information to stay on top of your game. Ultimate Landlord is here for people like you, people who do this. No get rich quick, more get rich smart. Ultimate Landlord is the place for you to realise your full potential as a property investor. Okay, so hi everybody and welcome to our latest podcast. This week we've got a real treat. We've got Mark Beharrell. I have pronounced it right, haven't I, Mark?
Correct.
I've always pronounced it right, haven't I, Mark? I actually learned a few seconds ago. So my name's John Penquet. I also have a rather peculiar surname and I'm part of Ultimate Landlord, and I'm really pleased to be talking to Mark this week because not only is Mark a good friend of mine, we know one another for quite some time. We've done a fair bit of business together. I've been involved in the management of his portfolio of properties, and I just love his down-to-earth and honest approach to property investing. There's so much bluster and noise around property, and particularly property investors that do a good job. Whereas with Mark, he just gets the job done and does the job really well. So it's a pleasure to have you on, Mark. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
That's all right. So how are you? How are you surviving the 2020 challenges, should we say?
Yeah, the property world's a funny one, isn't it? I had a bit of a shocker going into the first lockdown. So as soon as they called it, I had two people move out of my houses. So one of them had only been in there, I think, 2 months or something like that.
Wow.
And I think she was the first time moving away from home, and she didn't want to be away from her parents, so she moved back home. And then one of the ones that you was looking after, she moved out as well. And then we had a HMO that was still unfurnished. So yeah, I think it was 4 properties without anyone in it for pretty much the majority of lockdown.
I feel your pain. I had my HMO portfolio took a bit of a batter, and I one house in particular where we had Italian. They weren't students; they were professionals, but they were still studying, so they were working, but had an element of study. And they just messaged me and said, "We've been recalled to Italy. We've got to go back." No option. They had a letter. They were called back, and they left the following morning and left me with an empty house. So a nice big 8-bed HMO empty. And as you say, you couldn't fill it because couldn't do any viewings because they were banned. So.
Yeah, it was bad times. We just couldn't do anything. We were waiting for the guys to come and just bring the furniture, and even just the chain just stopped everything. And I couldn't get anyone into my single lets to do any of the work.
I mean, things like gas engineers, boilers breaking down. I had an oil boiler in one of my houses that decided to pack up. I just couldn't get anyone. Just nobody would come outside. They were too frightened to come out.
Yeah, no, I think second time round, I think it's going to be very different. I think everyone knows what to expect, and you'll get a lot of these engineers like, nah, I'll do it this time. But first time, nobody knew what was going on. There was a lot of fear pumped to everybody, so just nobody did anything, and they all just stayed at home. Yeah. So I couldn't get anything done, and it was myself and my parents, God bless them, were doing what they could, doing a bit of painting and just doing what they could. It was bad times.
Well, we're out of it now. You survived.
Yeah, so got people in pretty much everywhere now. So yeah, happy days. It was a long time coming.
And you
so yeah, it's just getting those refunds.
You predominantly focus on on single lets, don't you? I know you mentioned HMO, but you've got
well, the HMO was just a deal that came my way that was almost too good to be true, and I said that at the time. I'm not saying it now, but it was one of those things that it was probably my first deal that I've done with a HMO, but I'm doing it with a joint venture partner. So he was the one who sourced it and found it and dealt with all the legals and everything like that. So all I did was put some money in.
Yeah.
So to me, I treat it like a single let. Mm-hmm. So I don't have anything to do with it. I don't have to fill it. I just take in the money every month.
That's nice. Can I have a deal like that?
Yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to get to find these people.
Oh, I had one of those. mine do devour time, but they do cash flow well when we're we're not dealing with
that's it. I mean, I'm not in it for the cash flow. Investing for me is a long term thing. So single lets for me is easily the best thing for long term. Mm-hmm. So it's what I'm going to be focusing on from now on. Even if someone comes to me with a too good to be true deal, I think I would probably turn them down if it was HMO or
single lets.
Accommodation.
I think a lot of people forget to put a price or a value on their time. The time cost of running an HMO. Even if you instruct an agent and you try and make it as relatively passive as possible, they never are. You've always got demands. The properties get really worked hard compared to a single let, and in general the average tenure of an HMO is less than 12 months, obviously with students, but also with professionals as well. They don't take very long. Whereas a single let, I've got people in my single lets, they've been with me for 7-8 years and they're never going to go. And as a result of that, the house gets a little bit more care and love from them, but also doesn't get, because it hasn't got the constant change and the constant flow of people, it tends to just last a bit longer and hold up against maintenance.
Yeah, well, that's what I want. I want people to feel like it's their home. I have very, very few rules for people who are moving into any of my houses. If they want pets, they can have pets. If they want to change the colour of the walls, they can change the colour of the walls. I just say it's your house.
Yeah.
Do what you want with it. If that's what it takes for them to stay longer.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're going to knock a wall down or something like that, and they come to me and say, "Can I knock through the kitchen?" Something like that. Yes,
no.
But. But yeah, it's their house in the end. So
that's how you attract better tenants, isn't it? I mean, I know we've all had challenges over 2020, but in general, your tenants are relatively loyal and stay and actually pay a little bit more on the rent to you as well because of that flexibility. I remember, gosh, it was a few years ago when we were putting a tenant into your property and they asked, would it be possible to have a pet? Would it be possible to paint? And your response is yes. However, they needed to be, they needed to commit to a slightly higher rental amount. They were happy, absolutely. £25 to keep Fido in the house is £25 well spent rather than sending Fido to the dog's home. People will spend it. And you will probably make any damage the Fido makes the house, you'll make back easily in the length of the tenure of the tenancy, the lack of void, and also the fact that you're getting top rate on the rent as well. So, I think a lot of property investors don't like to let go of the fact that the house is an investment. It's someone else's home. It's not yours as a property investor. It's the tenant's home. It's your investment in your house. And I just find a lot of people just lose sight of that. I don't want pets. I don't want them painting the walls. I don't want them coming in too late. I don't want them playing in the garden. I don't want them, all that sort of, all these rules and expectations of a tenant. I wouldn't want that in my house.
Yeah. So, well, to be honest, sometimes I even forget I've got them. I just let the houses be. That's my whole approach. I got into this. I don't want to deal with tenants. If an email comes away, I want to reply to it as quick as possible. Like, do they want to paint the walls? Yeah, go ahead. I don't want to be bothered. That's not why I'm in it. Yeah. So I know a few people who have lots of properties and they run it themselves. I don't want a job. I want a passive, as much passive income as possible. I have no interest
in running CEO of the business. You're not an employee of the business. You're the director of the business, and that's something that we talk a lot about in Ultimate Landlord. And I know you've been absolutely on that from day one. You're strategic at the start. You do all that work at the beginning, get it set up, and then you then expertly delegate either directly or indirectly to your tenant or to your managing agent, your letting agent, and you direct the company. And that's why you have the successes that you have, in my view, is that you spend less time worrying about going and changing light bulbs and fitting skirting boards, and more time thinking about what's the best way to present a property to the market, and how to find the best tenant and the best type of tenant for that property, and looking after them. Everyone could learn from that. If anyone's listening and is thinking about getting into property, Mark's model and what Mark does is exemplary, and it's something that you if you're very serious about being a property investor, you need to do, because you will not only run out of money, and we talk a lot about that, but you'll also run out of time as well. Time is a huge cost in property. What got you into property, Mark?
Well, as you know, I was working away overseas, and I had a good job paying a very good wage, and I had a lot of surplus income. So when you've got a lot of people out there who are trying to get your money into their financial things they've got going on, you have to you sometimes question, like, right, well, I've got all this money, what shall I put it into? So you just start doing a bit of research, and you read a few things, and you look at some of these financial things they've got going on out there, and there's cost to, if you want to pull your money out, it's not liquid enough for me. So I dabble in a few other things. I bought some gold. I don't get involved in like Bitcoin or anything I don't understand. But property just seemed like the logical thing. And my parents, because I bought a house that I was going to live in when I moved back, which I was only supposed to be out there for 2-3 years. It turned out to be 11. So my parents moved into that.
Where were you?
I was out in Qatar, in the Middle East. So so I had all this cash, and my parents were living in this house that I bought, and they were renting out their house. They were renting it to someone that they knew, and they were running it themselves, and they trusted the person who was in there. But it seemed quite an easy thing to do. Yeah. So it just sounded simple. So you buy a house, you do it up, you rent it out, and you give it to in my case, I give it to an agent, and that's simple. Like, the money comes in.
But that's the thing that drives me bonkers. A lot of the training, and I know you've been trained, I've been trained, and I run training courses as well in Ultimate Landlord, but we overcomplicate a process that's mega simple. So nobody really needs to be trained to buy a house, because most of us will have done that at some point in our lives. And it's the same when you're going on a buy-to-let or buying a rental property as it is when you're buying a normal residential property. There are nuances, but generally the process is almost identical. There are additional ways in which you can approach things and different so-called strategies, but they're just describing how you buy different types of property. They're not. I don't believe we're getting. I don't believe a lot of people who start that property journey need that level of knowledge, as you say. Just go buy a house. Just go and rent one out.
Sometimes it is just as simple as that. Just start.
Yeah. And then
see what happens. There's some learning just in doing that itself. Like, just buy your first one. Because I had 2 properties before I even went and started doing any learning. Yeah. And to be honest, I try and think back now, like, what motivated me to go and do more training in it. I don't know whether I thought I was missing out on some trick.
I think there's a lot of that. There's a lot of the come and see the magic. Come and see the magic, and there's no magic. It's just
no. There really isn't. There really isn't, and it can be a simple process. I mean, there is a lot of things you need to learn in regards to Well, my biggest learning was, especially when you're buying a property that needs doing up, is the cost of things. Because you can get people go in there and say, "Oh, this is a really cheap house. It's probably cheap for a reason."
Yeah, it just needs to be knocked down and started again.
Yeah, and you go in there and you're like, "Oh, this will be. I could do this for 10 grand." And then the builders come in and they're like, "This is going to cost you 30, 40 to get it to a standard that's," and then your numbers are all out. So I think learning that the cost of things is probably one of the biggest things I learned, especially buying houses that needed doing up. My first two were simple. They were already they were furnished. I mean, I had to take some of the furniture out. It wasn't great, but it was all painted and it was ready to go. I mean, if you can buy those cheap, you're away.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Particularly if people are starting out, or if they're not in a major rush to recycle money fast, we can talk about. I mean, if anyone's unsure about that, just do our 14-day challenge to become a property investor. So if you're new, you can just learn about all that sort of stuff. I'll put a link on the video. But I think there's a lot to be said for being a little bit lazy when it comes to property investing. Certainly, I like to be. You can make the property work without having to pick up a paintbrush or a trowel or a wheelbarrow or a set of pliers. You can negotiate a competitive price for the property, and if you buy that property in a rising market, then you're gonna, in a short space of time, you're going to be able to cycle whatever investment you put into it back out by virtue of the fact that the property's increased in value and you bought it at a much lower price. So we talk about like momentum investing, where you buy it and then you refurbish it and then you refinance it and get your original purchase price back out and the cost of the refurbishment. But there is another option for a lot of us, particularly those of us that start now, or those of us that aren't in a huge rush to build up a massive property empire. It's finding a vendor, or finding a property where they are prepared to accept a slightly lower than market value offer, but buying a rising market. So if that market's going to rise 10-15% over the next 2 years, then you're pretty much there when it comes to getting your money back out in 24 months time anyway. So there's a load of opportunity to do that, and also not have to go through the pain of instructing builders, all the things that go wrong with it, having the property empty for a long period of time while the work's being done. It's really interesting. We've done a few of these podcasts, and you're the first person that's actually mentioned the value of just doing things nice and simple rather than overcomplicating things through that process.
Yeah, I see people they crunch numbers and they got the spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And everyone's spreadsheet's different, so everyone comes out with a different ROI. And you get people like, "Oh, can you show me your the way you like work out your ROI?" It's like, well, I do it different to Joe Blogs, and it's again, some people overcomplicate that process. It's not rocket science.
You bought in good locations, and I think if you spend a message to everybody, new, old, inexperienced, done it for 100 years, for goodness sake, please, before you do anything else, make sure you buy in areas of high demand, because that's the easiest way to fill your house, to keep it cash flowing, to eliminate costs, to ensure that the asset appreciates in value. I know that's something that you're really focused on, is not just the cash flow, but the asset appreciation of the life. It's funny because you hear Mark talking about the challenges that he had during lockdown, but as he also said, as soon as lockdown restrictions started to be relaxed, properties full again. Why is that? Because you bought the right properties. Simple as.
Yeah. Well, there's a trick to that. You speak to the right people who know where these areas are.
Who's that?
Yeah, I wonder who that is.
Thanks for the.
You would come every month with your slideshow, and you'd say, these are the areas that are going up in value. These are the areas where the rents are going up.
People in the room, and probably only 5 or 6 of you ever did anything with it.
I wonder who acted on it. because it was plain as day to me. Like, these are the areas that is telling us to invest in. It's to me, it's a simple process. Like, right, okay, that's where I'm going to look.
Then you got people, oh, I'm going to go and buy this or that, or I'm going to buy in this location, or I got a cheap deal here. And I'm just thinking, what are you doing? What are you doing? Never mind. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, you work in the black and white. You look at the numbers and you crunch the numbers, and you know where the places are that are going to be increasing the value. And I think a lot of people tend to love to play in the grey area of like trying to speculate on where the next big area might be.
Particularly once they've bought a couple of I mean, my big bugbear at the moment is all of the everybody wants to be a property celebrity at the moment, or a lot of people want to be a property celebrity. Those property celebrities want to tell everybody what's happening with coronavirus, and they're saying, I mean, it's all over social media. It's like, the property market crashed, the property market this, the property market that. There's one chap who will remain nameless, who keeps saying that the property market's going to crash in October. I'm sat here now, and it's the 21st of October, and I am
any day now. Any day.
He's guaranteed. All you have to do is give him, I think it was £1,000 to come on one of his courses, and he'd tell you why you were going to make so much money out of the crash in October. And he was publishing that around June, July. And I sit here now, I think, God, why? And the sad thing is, people listen to it as well. People think, oh yeah, celebrity, got a nice big portfolio, therefore I must listen to him. Yeah.
I mean, I do look at some of the headlines about what the government are going to do and what the banks are doing, but if you look at the numbers, people can talk all they want, but if you just look at numbers, it's,
as you say, it's simple, really. Do people want to live in an area, and what type of properties do they want to live in that area? Okay, and if there isn't enough supply of that property, and there's a lot of people wanting that type of property, you should be buying that property. That's just all there is to it. It's not. There is a skill to finding those areas, but that's something that I can help with, and other people that have done it can help with as well. There is a skill, but it can be done. What you don't want to be doing is listening to what everybody else is doing. So back to when we used to sit in those rooms of 50 or so people, and everyone else is doing. You'll know where they were buying and what they were trying to buy, and you just went off and invested in a completely different area, completely different type of property purchase, and you're rubbing your hands together and laughing because you're making money, and the rest of them are just scratching their heads and panicking and thinking, blimey, why is it all going wrong for me? And it's just because you kept it simple.
Well, and I'm sat here with time on my hands to do podcasts and trying to squeeze that into their schedules.
So what's the plan for the future, Mark? Apart from obviously being locked up in December or November and December in Wales, what else are you going to do?
Well, I like to use my own money. I don't like necessarily asking people for money, and I have still got my own money that I still use for investing. So at the moment, I'm waiting to do the legals. That's always fun to pull my money out of one of the deals that I've got, which is quite a substantial amount of money, which I'll be able to buy several more single lets with. So yeah, it's just single lets all the way for me for the future. So I'll keep asking where these places are that I should be investing, and I'll start looking.
Yeah, cool. So you're gonna you nothing holding you back then. Basically, you happy to carry on with your single lets, and you're gonna.
No, yeah, like some people are like panicking and trying to jump out of the market, and like it's not the thing to be investing in now. I don't know what
money in Ethereum or Bitcoin or put it in the stock market and see how secure that is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like companies coming out saying, "Oh, we're not paying dividends to you this year." Oh, great, yeah, that's.
So that's great. So more of the same, but look at expand.
Me or you?
I think I'm under arrest for
speaking the truth.
Yeah, for being honest, the truth.
So it's just more less, right? I'll keep looking, keep investing.
Yeah.
So that was always what it was going to be. That money was always just going to be its investment money, and we set up the company to use it for buying single lets. But yeah, as I say, a deal came up for a HMO, but my rules are very clear. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to get involved. Just give me the money at the end of it. Just treat it exactly the same as I would if I was giving it to an agent.
I mean, for anyone that's listening to this and thinking of going into property, already in property, just bear in mind Mark's words, because they're simple but distinct as well. He runs it like a property investor. We talk about being property investors, but we're not. We just work in property, a lot of us. Mark is a property investor. He does the work at the start. He identifies the types of properties he wants. He's very, very clear on not wanting to spend excessive amounts of time and having to constantly work on his properties. And as a result of that, he's able to expand more effectively, be more focused, and actually probably performs better than if he did try and grab the paintbrush and paint everything himself.
Well, that's it. It's all about time, isn't it?
Yeah. And you've come from a highly paid career, so you know the value of your time. You've more than likely worked it out. And why would you go and do with the respect people do, why would you go and do a sort of £7-8 an hour job, and when you can pay someone £7-8 an hour and then have your time back to do the things that make you far more money? That's a message lost on a lot of people in our industry.
Yeah, well, again, some people, one of the first questions they ask you when you do some of this learning is what's your number? What do you want to achieve in property? And it usually comes down to how much you want to get each month. Mine's a relatively low number. I see it all the time when I ask people, so what do you want to get? And the numbers are huge. Why do you need that much money? I don't get it. I mean, I'm trying this new thing of not judging people, but people keep saying and doing stupid things, and I see like £10,000, £11,000, £12,000. Why not 3,000 a month?
Yeah,
it's you can do it in a lot shorter time. And then
you can double that again. You can do again. This annoys me. It's the property investment is a journey. So you have to hit particular checkpoints. So everyone, you always get the hoorays who are going, I'm going to make 50 grand a month, and I'm going to have 20 million of asset and all that rubbish. And then they make silly or they, it's not silly, but they take a huge amount of risk in order to hit that number, and then they come unstuck. And time and time again, you see it. Even people who've been doing it a while, they just push themselves too far and too fast. As you rightly say, it's surprising when you work it out what level of income is suitable for you to have a much more relaxed and much more high quality standard of living. So when people ask me why I went into property, all I was interested in was time. I had no time.
Yeah.
Really wealthy in terms of cash flow every month. I had a good job. I paid well. I never saw my family. I was working away all the time. I had no standard of living. Didn't see my friends. So that I would have happily sacrificed half or 3/4 of my salary to get that back.
Yeah,
and I did. I mean, fortunately, because I have that focus on my time and I have a focus on running my business, then you're not chasing the money, you're chasing the sort of the life goal or the support that you want to give to yourself and to others. You tend to find that the money just starts to flow more easily because you're not making foolish decisions and you're not pushing yourself to do the wrong thing. You're being balanced and focused and looking at the right things, which enables you, ironically, to then make more money.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head when saying about the people trying to do it too quick. Because a lot of people trying to do it too quick. They want it now, instantly. I want to do it within the next 12 months. You hear these things that you need to do it in 12 months. I've been doing this for 6-7 years now. It's a long game for me. But
you've got yours is sustainable. So a lot of people will, they'll set themselves a target for 12 months and they'll throw everything at it and they'll achieve it. And then they'll fall back down again. They sort of they climb up and then they come back down. They climb up and then they come back down. That's no way to live your life. Trust me, farming is not a nice space to be in. You want a steady level amount. So I don't know. I think when I decided I was going to leave corporate, I said I need to cover my mortgage, cover my bills, and have a small amount each month for living, and I mean a small amount. So that when I worked out that number, it meant that rather than having to carry on working and buying more property for another 5 years, it meant I could go within 2. And then because I was able to go within 2, and I was able to focus, I wasn't taking so many risks. I wasn't being I wasn't being as excitable as some of the others in the industry, and taking my time and learning more about the industry rather than just trying to get the next deal. Obviously, the data was a key part of that. What actually happened is I was able to go after a year because I didn't have that I wasn't chasing the money. I was chasing building a robust and strong process and strategy for me to invest in property. I actually hit upon a few opportunities that no one else was looking at. I was able to act on them with some other people, and then made far more money than I expected. So I hit my target earlier by not being so preoccupied with hitting a much bigger number. I was more preoccupied on the process that was involved.
Yeah, well, I always said when I started doing my learning about 3 years ago, that this would be a 10-year process for me. That I just want to hit that target in 10 years. So, but the course was 12 months, and everyone was piling all their resources into trying to get as many properties as they could within 12 months. And I see it now, though. They're trying to palm off some of those properties they bought in that first 12 months because they don't work. Like, they ask you the question, does anybody know anyone who wants to buy this? Like, well, if you don't want it.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they said they bought in the wrong area.
Wrong property, wrong area.
Wrong property, wrong area.
Oh, mate, it's been really cool catching up with you. I'm conscious of taking up quite a bit of your time. I think it's difficult at the moment because of coronavirus and things, but I think a lot of people would really benefit from sort of learning and talking to you. So hopefully once we get out of lockdown and coronavirus, things return to a somewhat closer to normality, we'll get a chance to have maybe a networking event. Maybe you can come along and tell people about your story, and they can
I love that.
Pick your brains.
My brains can be picked quite easy.
Oh, mate, it's a pleasure, and it's so nice to hear that somebody who's followed some of what we've worked, that have worked with me and worked with the guys in Ultimate Landlord, and have seen real success. It's really nice to hear that, and not just the big riches, but also the standard of living and the value that it brings. I know you spend a lot more time with your family, don't you? And brings to you. So we share a passion on that one as well. So thank you for sharing your story, mate. It's
you're very welcome.
Very cool. So, if you want to find out any more about anything that we discussed in this podcast, there will be links and comments attached to this video or podcast, and do feel free to comment and share and like and all the other good stuff that we can do. And I'll see you again in a future podcast. Thanks, everybody.